welcome to the Town of Riverhead Planning Board. Today is Thursday, September 1st, 2022. If we could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, so we are here tonight for a public scoping session for the site plan application for Riverhead Logistics Center. As required by SECRA, scoping must include the opportunity for public participation. The planning board has assumed lead agency. The draft scope has been made available for view on the town's website. If you should need a copy this evening, the planning staff will be able to provide you one. The purpose of the scope is to identify the relevant issues, concerns that are needed to be discussed within the draft environmental impact statement. We encourage any members of the public speaking on this evening to please consider submitting written comments which coincide with the verbal comments being made tonight. We ask, due to the number of people in the audience this evening, if you could please keep your comments under 5 minutes. If you have anything additional that you would like to have made of record, you may send them in a written comment. So with that, can we please have Matt Charters?
Good evening. Matt Charters, planner for the town of Riverhead, stepping in for Greg tonight, who couldn't be present. As you said, Madam Chair, this is a public scoping session for the Riverhead Logistics Center. It's a site plan application seeking approval to develop a vacant industrially zoned parcel with a 641,000 square foot Class A warehouse facility. As you noted, this is a type 1 action pursuant to SECRA. The planning board assumed lead agency and issued a positive declaration on July 7, 2022. A draft scope was received on July 14th, 2022 by the applicant. And pursuant to SECRA, a final scope will need to be adopted within 60 days. Planning department has requested an extension for that due to the timeframes that would take us to September 15th to adopt the draft scope, which I believe the applicant has granted. How's that? Can everybody hear me now? Good, thank you. I'm going to briefly summarize Greg's report, which identifies some issues with the draft scope. Once I'm done, I'll turn it over to members of the public. I think it's important to note that the purpose of scoping tonight is to focus on the environmental issues, not on the merits of the application, whether you think it should be approved or not. This is to focus on what should be included in the final scoping document. So within the report, in terms of required approvals, the table on page 5 of the draft scope should be updated to include approvals for the Suffolk County Department of Public Works, as well as New York State Department of Environmental Conservation and the Riverhead Sewer District. The report does note, in terms of water sources, that this would involve an extension of the Riverhead Sewer District, and there currently is a map and plan being requested, I believe. Number 3, potential significant adverse impacts in terms of soil and topography. The final scope should indicate that a phase 1 environmental site assessment will be performed on the subject property, and if warranted, a phase 2 ESA would be preferred.
It's speaking to the mic.
Yeah, they're having
Is the microphone on?
Yeah, it's on.
Everybody hear me?
No, you can't hear me? I'll try and project. I don't know.
A little low and slow.
Yeah. Any better? Yeah, it's better. Okay, good. Trying to get it in front of me. Okay. Water resources. The final scope must include the comments of the Riverhead Sewer District, human resources, land use, zoning, and plans. The draft scope indicates that the DIS will describe land use and zoning of the subject site and the surrounding area within 1,000 feet of the subject property. This is inadequate, and the final scope should indicate that the study area will be increased to 1 mile of the subject property. In terms of aesthetic resources, the final scope must include potential visual impacts from the roads listed, as well as Middle Country Road, Old Country Road, and Depot Road, as well as the western portion of the Foxwood residential community. Discussion of the lighting plan should also take place in terms of potential sky glow from the subject property. Transportation, The report is pretty in-depth here, mostly related to the Manor Road and Splish Splash intersection. Peak times have been identified as it relates to Splish Splash. However, it's unclear how these peak times were determined, so specifics will need to be given. And if Splish Splash does not have such data available, counts should be performed during a wider time frame in order to identify true peak hours, both at the entrance and exit to and from the park. Turning movement counts should be conducted at the New York State 25 and Edwards Avenue intersection, and counts should also be taken and analyzed at the New York State 25 County Route 58 merge heading westbound. Specific concern outlined in the report is the Manor Road right-of-way, which is part of the Riverhead Town Highway system. The DEIS must include the discussion of the right-of-way width of the approved surface, shoulder widths, road construction specifications, and drainage systems. This section of the DEIS should also reference an analysis of potential impacts to alternative modes of transportation to the site, including sidewalks, walkability, existence of bike lanes, and public transportation such as the county bus. In terms of noise, the final scope should require that sound level measurements be taken at 3 locations, including the property's southern boundary abutting the LIE entrance ramp, at the midpoint of the northern property boundary abutting the LIPA transmission lines, and at the property's frontage with Middle Road. For energy, the final scope must include discussions of the location of existing gas mains and detailed improvements required to provide gas services to the site. Building construction methods should also be discussed as it relates to energy efficiencies, LEED certified buildings and constructions, and then reasonable alternatives to be considered. The alternative access plan, this alternative must include the proposed action with direct access to and from the Long Island Expressway. An alternative as of right development plan should be analyzed with on-site sanitary systems in the event the applicant is unable to extend the boundaries of the Riverhead Sewer District, and in the event that the applicant is unable to obtain an easement from the New York State DOT for the installation of the sewer main, an alternative development plan should be included with an alternate sewer connection route. This is a summary of what Greg's identified as the issues are with this site. The full report's available for the public if they want to review it. There's copies of the scope as well. This time I turn it over to members of the public to identify any issues they may have.
Thank you.
I just confirmed with my member of the public, he is on Zoom right now, so maybe you know and love out in Calverton. Just for a little bit of education for the public, please come up, identify your name, and which hamlet you're from. Do so slowly and into the microphone so that you're picked up by the TV. And also, we have a transcriber with us this evening, so your comments will be taken down. We want to make sure that your comments are taken verbatim, so we're not missing anything. And thank you, and apologize for the delay.
Okay, do we have anyone that would like to come up and comment on this?
My name's Danielle Kilfoyle. I live at 1653 Middle Road in Calverton.
Ma'am, just sorry, and everybody, when you do come up to speak, just spell your last name as well.
Kilfoyle. I get that request a lot. I'm new to this process, but I've picked apart this draft scope, and to me, it leaves much to be desired. I don't see how the town can possibly make informed decisions on North Point's application without deepening the scope of the environmental impact study. If you reference the town of Riverhead zoning map, North Point's proposed development site is zoned Industrial A, but you'll see that it juts out like a peninsula essentially into what otherwise is APZ. So according to page 2 of the draft, their proposed driveway to the facility would create a 4-leg intersection with Middle Road and Manor Road. These are roads that are located within APZ and should not be used for North Point's private industrial operation. They're residential roads, children, riding bikes, pedestrians. They're not meant for tractor, trailer, and box truck traffic. Of all the topics covered in the draft, the traffic's the most concerning to me as it creates a public safety issue and will have significant adverse effects on the community. The data referenced on page 3 of the traffic flow in and out of the facility is based on ITE trip distribution data for warehousing during peak hours. to me, this is problematic to base the impact study on this data alone, because without the disclosure of who the tenant is, we're left to guess what the actual traffic implications will be. Depending on the company who occupies the space, the traffic could be much more than this, and I think we need to see the implications of what above-average peak traffic to and from the facility will look like. This projection also affects the air quality and odors. A number of North Point's clients, companies who occupy their facilities, I've heard rumor, Chewy.com, Amazon. Chewy.com's revenue was $8.8 billion in 2021, while Amazon's revenue was $470 billion. These are two drastically different companies, and just two examples of how different the traffic flow coming in and out of this facility should or could be. So we're essentially left to speculate if this ITE trip data actually applies. The traffic numbers are already staggering, but they could be much more based on who occupies the space. Also saying, quote, types of trucks would be a mix of vehicles ranging from box trucks to tractor trailers, end quote, is not enough information. What's the ratio? What are the weights of the trucks? Middle Road has an 8-ton limit, but you wouldn't know that because there aren't any signs. Do these trucks have air brakes? All of this contributes not only to the traffic congestion, but also to noise and pollution levels. Page 9 of the draft says the impact study will be conducted during peak hours in the summer and autumn, but I feel we need to see what this means for our community year-round. I think the study should go beyond peak hours. As far as I know, distribution facilities can be operational 24/7, so we need to see the full picture. Only 2 intersections are called out to be studied, Route 25 and Manor Road and Middle Road and Manor. These are not the only 2 intersections that will be impacted, and the scope of the traffic study needs to be expanded, most importantly to 25 and Edwards Avenue. It's already a problematic intersection, which will be made worse by the increased traffic. Edwards Ave isn't wide enough to accommodate right-hand turning lanes, so the intersection gets very backed up, especially during peak hours. There's a charter school located between Edwards Ave and Manor Road on 25. How are school buses navigating this increase in traffic volume? How are emergency vehicles going to get anywhere near this area during peak hours when there's complete gridlock? 25 doesn't have a center turning lane, so how does that impact the businesses on 25? The increased traffic volume will make it nearly impossible to get in and out of these businesses. Other intersections that should be included are Middle Road and Deepole Road, and Middle Road and Mill Road. How are these intersections physically able to accommodate tractor trailers and box trucks, and will the increased traffic volume require them to be reworked? The traffic projections on the proposed study are limited to the construction year of 2024. We need to see what the long-term projections are. How does this level of traffic build over time, and what does that mean for our community? The increased traffic volume from this and the 6 other proposed industrial facilities in the area will make it harder for people to patronize our farms. Agricultural tourism is significant to this community, and the harder we make it for people to get to our farms, the less people will come. What's that impact? The construction, in this draft, it says the construction has a 6 to 8 month construction time, which I don't think is realistic, and I think we need to see what the effects on our community will be if it takes longer than that. It takes 6 months to get National Grid on the phone, so never mind bringing all of these utilities there. Also, the lighting plan, illuminating a 16-acre building, even with dark sky compliant lighting, is going to have a significant glow. We need to see what that looks like in the middle of the night. I suspect that no resident of Calverton will see the stars when we have this type of lighting. The water quality and stormwater management, our community already has water quality issues. Private wells are contaminated from Grumman, and the contamination of these wells began approximately 22 years after Grumman was shut down. So we need comprehensive studies that project what the water quality impact will be, not just now or in 10 years, but in 50 years. How effective are the stormwater management systems? And what's the long-term water quality forecast if the proposed 7 industrial projects are allowed in the span of 2.66 linear miles? again, I don't see how the town can make decisions regarding the proposed application without having more case-specific data and projections for what the future will hold. Thank you.
Thank you.
It was a nice presentation, very good. And it was loud and clear. The microphone, yeah.
Hi, good evening. Laura Jen Smith from Laurel, JENS-SMITH. I would just like to support everything that the last speaker said. A lot of that was in what I was going to say, so I will, instead of repeating that, I will just point on some other issues that I had. One of the questions I do have is, I read some of the report from Suffolk County, from their staff report. One of the questions they did raise that this is in a potential environmental justice area, and one of the recommendations was to have I just have notes on everything, so I'm sorry if I'm a little over an enhanced public participation plan for this project, and I was wondering, has the board called for the applicant to provide something like that for the project?
This really isn't something that we're
Okay,
going into
so
a
I'm
dialogue at this point.
I'm asking, I don't know if you were aware of that, but it is something that's recommended. One of the other big things is in all of the things that I saw, it did mention it would be addressed. I still have not seen what the hours of operation are. And, you know, as the previous speaker has said, it has such an impact, whether it's traffic, what's being studied, what time the noise is, whether, you know, once the land is cleared and there's no foliage there, it will have an impact on everything. I mean, just for a case in point, we have Stop and Shop. That's right over here on Route 58, and they did a noise impact, and the amount of noise that came from the trucks delivering things behind the buildings next to the residential neighborhood was quite significant and has caused problems for years, to the point where the town has spent thousands of dollars to try and get it fixed after it was approved. So I think that's something considered, especially when you see the buffer being asked to be reduced on the size of the property. One other thing for the utilities that I want to mention, I know that you brought up for fire and police and everything else. One of the big issues out here, and I know it's not really brought up that much, but it's telephone and internet. You know, as soon as summer comes and there's more people around and there's more people that have moved out here, there's a big problem with access. You know, clear access and clear signals for telephone and internet, and a lot of people rely on that for business, so I think that should be included with the use and how that's going to affect the accessibility for the community. Suffolk County, when they did their writing, they had the local comprehensive plan recommendations. I just would like to read this because I know there's been mention of the 2003 comprehensive plan, and Suffolk County staff report. They said the town of Riverhead's 2003 comprehensive land use plan set forth recommendations and policies specific to the area of the subject development site. It goes on to say, in policy 710A of the plan, directs to allowed commercial recreation uses in some of the industrial area located between Enterprise Park and the Long Island Expressway, which is in the industrial A area. The plan reads, the industrial zone area located between the LIE and the Enterprise Park should continue to allow moderate-sized industrial and warehouse development. This provides an ideal location for businesses that would not necessarily want to be located at EPCAL, such as contractors' offices and other industries in which businesses tend to have less than 40 employees. It should be noted that the plan also identifies and sets a goal to concentrate major office and industrial development in Enterprise Park. And as the park is uniquely suited for offices and industrial development because of its central location and convenient access to the LIE. So as planners, you know, to think about what works best with the community, especially in light of the fact that we're updating the comprehensive plan. They go on to say the proposed use, which is permitted in accordance with local zoning, appears to be compatible with a variety of land uses in the area. However, the scale of the proposed building at approximately 15 acres in size and 50 feet in height may not be consistent with the goal of concentrating major industrial development within Enterprise Park. It could be argued that the proposed Riverhead Logistics Center is approaching an over-intensification of the use of the site, as is evidenced by the near-complete removal of all vegetation on the premises, a request to maximize impervious surface to lot coverage. They want to put in over 75% lot coverage as opposed to the permitted 70%.
Excuse me, Laura, you're almost at 5
Okay,
minutes.
and a request for the maximum building height variance with 30 feet is permitted, where 30 feet is only permitted, and they're asking for 50. So it appears to be more suited to be located at EPCAL than what they're requesting from the town at this point. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
Can I make a comment on,
You can come up to the podium.
the Zoom is not working, they said the address is invalid, that's all I want to say.
I'm talking to people right now, and they said they can hear. 16 people on it.
Okay.
Go ahead.
John Yakubowski from Calverton, Yakabaoski. The issue is Manor Road, I live in Calverton and I use Manor Road every day to get home. Manor Road ends at 1743 Middle Road. Manor Road has many ruts on it right now. Will these ruts be repaired before the warehouse and goes in? Right now, truck usage, Coastal Pipeline, Suffolk Cement, other use it every day, daily, on a daily basis. There are also other trucks that go there from Toomey Avenue that connect to Manor Road to go to the expressway. Again, it's a lot of usage. Again, like I say, I don't know when they look into this, what they're going to do. I did read somewhere that between the hours of 3 and 4, they anticipate 30 to 35 trucks going to the new facility. Again, just a comment also on Splish Splash, there are times, although they're closed now, they're seasonal. They have police usually direct traffic at different times when they are busy with that. I just want to point that out. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else that would like to come up and comment?
There's probably some Zoomers.
She said there's 16 people on Zoom. She said there's 16 people on Zoom.
Good evening, Chairwoman Roski, members of the board. My name is Barbara Blass, B-L-A-S-S, and I live in Jamesport. And I'm really delighted that I can cross out a lot of stuff. I'm sure you're equally delighted. So I just wanted to ask about the finding statement for HK Ventures that actually affects this scoping hearing, because without the comments of the lead agency, we're at a disadvantage because we don't know if there's any mitigation or conditions that you imposed on HK Ventures that would in turn affect this application. And that's precisely what SECR is designed to avoid, a segmented review. So I would just hope that you'd be able to provide those comments before or that finding statement before this comment period ends. Nonetheless, please accept the following comments for consideration, including to be included in the final scope. Needs and benefits analysis. There is no, as there are no known tenants, the DEIS should include a comprehensive and independent need and benefit assessment. According to a recent Newsday article, there's a proliferation of speculative warehouse development to the tune of approximately 11 million square feet across the island, and about 2 million square feet, or approximately 18% of that speculative Long Island warehouse space, is slated for the hamlet of Calverton. The DEIS should evaluate the market demand and weigh that against the identified long-term benefits to the local community and EJA area residents. Traffic, I also looked at page 3 of the draft scope and the ITE trip distribution for warehousing. It actually said the peak traffic to and from the site is expected to occur during the midday peak hour between 3 and 4 p.m. for warehousing use. So if you were to consider the fact that the passengers, vehicles, box trucks, and tractor trailers from all of the warehouses, I mean, if that's the ITE manual distribution data, that means all of the warehouses would look to have their peak hour would be from 3 p.m. to 4 p.m. And again, the cumulative assessment from all the warehouse development and the activity on the local area traffic, including school bus traffic to the charter school we heard about already, that has to be evaluated. Variance requests from the ZBA. We understand there are a few area variances. The applicant is requesting to build to a height of 50 feet and to reduce the undisturbed side yard buffer to 10 from 50 when adjoining residentially zoned properties. The DEIS must discuss these requests and justify them in light of the property's location in a potential environmental justice area. Is not visual impact or buffer requirements any, is it less important at this location? TDR, just this morning we heard that the town has been working on a code amendment to require a development to purchase TDRs to increase the height of a warehouse in the Industrial A and the Industrial C zoning use districts. It is my understanding that these two projects, HK Ventures as well as North Point, would be captured by this as of yet unadopted code. However, the applicant is currently requesting the height variance, and realistically, you can't pursue both avenues. So, since the timing of the adoption of the code is uncertain, the lead agency should request that the DEIS analyze the implications of each option in the context of the benefits and to the residents in the potential environmental justice area. Cumulative impacts, as far as I'm concerned, this is probably the most important section of the that should be explored in the greatest depth. Page 12 of the draft scope reads, quote, "The section of the DEIS will evaluate potential cumulative impacts with other pending developments or project sites as provided by the town of Riverhead." Currently underway is, in addition to North Point, is HK Ventures, Calverton Industrial Subdivision with a potential coverage of 70% of a 131-acre site. Calverton's distribution 45,000 square foot expansion, 75,000 square foot warehouse addition proposed by JPD Calverton, an additional 35,509 warehouse and 117,000 plus square foot storage facility as part of a RKG Ventures industrial subdivision. It's all in the same, essentially same area.
You're almost at 5 minutes.
Okay, these multiple actions are happening approximately the same time, have a common purpose, are occurring in the same general locale. Their resources have to be evaluated cumulatively: loss of productive agricultural soils, the clearing of unfragmented matured vegetation, air emissions, increase in energy demand, solid waste, fiscal impact. 3 of these projects are requesting IDA subsidies. They all have to be assessed cumulative. They're all happening at the same time. And the possibility of TDR-driven incentive to increase the height of all the warehouses to as much as 50 feet, the visual impacts as well as other impacts triggered by this precedent-setting growth-inducing impact must be accurately assessed. I won't go into water, air quality, you probably know already.
If there's anything else that you would like to add, why don't you just send it in with
I
your
will do
written
that.
comments
Thank
or
you very much for your time. Yes.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Mark, M-A-R-K, Haubner, H-A-U-B-N-E-R. I'm the co-chair of the Town of Riverhead's Environmental Advisory Committee, but I'm here on my own behalf today. Another 100 acres of land are gone to energy-hungry millions of cubic feet of concrete, glass, and asphalt and steel, all very intense carbon producers. Buildings which put up today will be our legacy in 75 years. I'm pretty much able to say that not one of us here tonight, maybe one fellow in the back that I just saw, will be here in those 75 years to face the consequences of our decisions. But long before that, only 7 years from now, 2030, New York state law, the Reforming the Energy Vision 2030, is part of the CLCPA, which is the Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act, will be holding us accountable for our carbon emissions. not just our municipal buildings, which our engineering department benchmarked 3 years ago, but all of our residential, commercial, and industrial buildings as well. The only way to achieve our state mandated goals is through planning, zoning, and codification of our structures. I've not seen any references to net zero buildings in any of these plans. No view of the future well-being of our town or its citizens. We can accomplish these goals with not just regulations and penalties, but also through incentives and smart planning. 2030 is not the starting point, it's the goal.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Sonny Kilfoyle, K-I-L-F-O-Y-L-E, and I live at 1653 Middle Road in Calverton. I just wanted to reiterate one point. Everything we've read so far in the environmental scope is based on the idea that there is no tenant. The final results can drastically differ from what we've read about. And I just want you guys, the board, to consider what happens if these are grossly underestimated. What happens to the community if what's proposed is grossly underestimated? That's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Good evening, Talkwee Turchin, Greater Calverton Civic Association President. I submitted a letter by email. You're nodding your head, you saw it. I am going to read it into the record because it's not available for other folks to see until it is. And then I just have 2 or 3 comments. It should take me not very much time.
You have 5 minutes.
Okay. Is that the same, sorry, as a point of reference, is a public scoping session similar to a public hearing as far as no time limit, or is it different?
I'm not here to engage in conversation.
Okay, I was just
I'd like
asking
to
for
listen to
procedure.
you.
So I'm sure it'll be less than that. Okay, so dear Planning Board and Planning Board Attorney, sorry, I didn't know your name. I believe it's Eileen Powers now? Okay, thank you. My contribution to the public scoping session for tonight's project, North Point Riverhead Industrial LLC, proposed Riverhead Logistics Center, is the following. How does, 1, North Point's 640,000 square foot speculative industrial warehouse space together with 2, HK Ventures, 412,000 square foot speculative industrial warehouse space, 3, Osted's 130 acres of industrial subdivision spec warehousing, unsure, 4, Pods Storage, doubling of industrial warehouse square footage with addition of 45,212 square feet, all proposed to come into existence on our 2-lane Middle Country Road, Calverton, in the span of 2.66 linear miles, along with 5, Mr. Israel's speculative warehouses on Manor Road at Middle Country Road, and 6, the new warehouse project proximal to Miller Environmental on Edwards Avenue, at Middle Country Road, and 7, not to be omitted from this landscape of industrial warehouses, the minimum 1 million square feet of industrial warehouse space in the EPCAL contract of sale. All fit into the law of New York State, which says the Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act of July 18th, 2019, now law, requires New York to reduce economy-wide greenhouse gas emissions 40% by 2030 and no less than 85% by 2050 from the 1990 levels. This law creates a Climate Action Council charged with developing a scoping plan of recommendations to meet these targets and place New York on a path towards carbon neutrality. My question is detailed, taking into account 7 proposed industrial warehouse projects. I'm certain you followed it. In summation, what is the Town of Riverhead Planning Board's evidence of compliance with the scoping plan of recommendations of the New York State Climate Action Council as a matter of law? Respectfully, Talkwee Turchin, Greater Calverton. Several folks are on Zoom tonight. I don't know if they plan on speaking, but I do want you to know that Calverton Civic's ears have been perked up. There are some folks who are here in the audience tonight who may not speak, but they're here because they're concerned, and our schedules are not conducive. Even though it's a 6 o'clock meeting, so very thankful that it is. This is a very important landscape-changing project. And when you look at the other 6 industrial projects, Calverton will never be the same. So the same problem that happened with the solar farms when Calverton Civic came to you, came to the town board with our letter that said, please, put a moratorium, put a break on this. It wasn't heeded until the cows were already out of the barn. Now we have the moratorium, we're looking at extending it. It's an industrial warehouse problem. This is not what's best for Calverton, it's not what's best for Riverhead. My last bit of information is to ask, on the FEIS, under the human resources and the aesthetic resources and community character, the section of the DEIS, this section of the DEIS will describe the existing view shed and general consistency or compatibility with existing elements of the community will be described. My question, and I don't know if there's going to be an answer to it tonight, is what is the definition of that community for compatibility? My suggestion would be that it's not only 11933, but also 11901, and all surrounding zip codes in Riverhead, because this doesn't affect just Calverton. Thanks so much.
Good evening. My name is Joseph Graziano. That last name is Graziano. I'm a trustee on the board of the Calverton Civic Association. Pretty new resident to the town itself. I've been here just about 3 years now, but I grew up in Riverhead. We had a lot of good speakers tonight, people that really know law, and that's awesome because I don't, and I'm not going to pretend to at this point. So there's a lot of things to consider with this, and I know you're going to consider them from everything that was here in this pamphlet, so we're not going to go over that again. I'm going to speak just as a guy. Here I am. I drive this way every day to work, and I love that drive. I came home from a trip a couple weeks ago, and that drive was now 15-foot high sand walls, which was pretty interesting to me, and that's what perked my ears up. I reached out to Takwi, and then started to get a little more involved in this. This is not a pitchfork and torch situation for me. This is more of a, what is the cumulative plan? I hear all these warehouses going in. I love this drive right up until traffic hits in the summertime, and then I'm stuck at that light for 15 plus minutes, sometimes even longer, waiting for the traffic to get cleared up or find my way around. I see a lot of unsafe turns happening on these roads, just with normal, everyday cars. And the more I think about how large vehicles are going to move down these roads, the more I get worried for the future of things in that area. So really, I think I'm just going to echo what everybody's already said in these packets here and the things to consider. But from me, just as a normal person sitting here that likes to drive that way to work every day, this is a very big impact, and it's going to have a lot of impacts if we continue to include more and more of these types of businesses on the road. Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to come up at this time? I know that we have some people on Zoom. Yes. Oh.
Hello, my name is Steve, Hiltune.
Steve, can you bring the microphone?
I live on Middle Road, and one thing that you haven't thought about is in the wintertime. We don't get a lot of snow this time of year, but in the wintertime it drifts heavy on Manor Road and the other two roads that come into that intersection. So if you clear from Middle Road all the way to 58, you might have a big mess through there now during the wintertime. Second of all, Foxwood, all those people riding their bicycles down that road, they don't want to be run over by a truck. A couple of nice neighborhoods. So it's really going to affect the quality of life over in that area. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, Takwi Turchin, Greater Calverton again. I forgot to ask one question. As you've heard tonight, with the folks that are here and the emails that you're receiving, there's great concern. First, I would ask that you table this. And also, if you choose not to, would you leave this open for public comment for 30 days? There are people whose lives can't stop that fast, even in 10 days, to get their thoughts out and get them into you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, I think we can go to Zoom now, Heather. Thank you. Heather, are you able to remind them that there's a live?
Good evening, can you hear me? Good evening, can you hear me? Good evening, can you hear me? Did you unmute yourself? Good evening, can you hear me? Okay, I just heard myself on Channel 22. Mike Foley, F-O-L-E-Y, Reeves Park. I had an opportunity to see the town board work session this morning, and certainly there were some items discussed there that is directly pertinent to this scoping session. They talked about TDRs and its application to increasing the height of buildings, and Jeff Murphy and Richard Wines were in charge of that presentation from what I could see. And they really explained the benefit of incorporating TDRs into heights allowances that could, in one project, put about $1.6 million into the TDR account. So I was very interested in seeing how they were doing that, and certainly looking on page 3 of that 20-page scoping session that you put up on the board, talks about this present application increasing in height from 30 feet to 50 feet. So certainly it would be pertinent, and it's comparable in size to the one that was discussed this morning. So, you know, we're talking about having a developer in contemplation of getting that much more square footage out of their project and saving the land cost value by going up instead of out of over $1.5 million to the TDR program.
Mr. Foley, can you hear me?
I can hear you, yes.
We're having trouble with our audio on our end, so we're not picking up your comments, or only playing in the hallway.
Well, I can tell you this, if you can hear me, that the sounds, the decibel volume on the Zoom call has been cutting in and out between 10 and 70 decibels, and I'm assuming right now I'm at 10 decibels, but that's not in my control. That's in the control room. So please let me know what you'd like me to do to be heard, because I'd really like to be heard on this.
I don't think that you're able to describe that. Is it possible to have him do it in writing?
I don't know if you can hear me now. Yeah, please do. Thank you.
Mr. Foley?
Yes.
Is it possible for you to submit your comments in writing? I want to make sure you're heard properly. I just don't want it to be misconstrued if we can't hear you.
Are you trying to get me again?
Mr. Foley, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
We can't hear you well enough to get it. Is it possible for you to submit your comments in writing, just so you're properly heard and we get the, the full breadth of what you'd like to say to the board regarding the scope?
Well, I guess that's the problem with not being there, right? That's unfortunate, but I guess I'm captive to Zoom problems, and hopefully the town of Riverhead will fix this, because I think it's important for people that can't get there in a situation like this to be
Can we try
heard.
to see if somebody else is able to come up? You guys are troopers tonight, everybody out there.
Why don't you have them send an email next week, you can read it, and it's local. Just to be typed out, it's done right away.
Yeah, I'm gonna ask someone.
Hello, Kathy McGraw from Northville. Can you hear me?
No, it's our audio.
Hello?
True.
So we can't hear him.
Was that? Do you want to tell everybody on Zoom?
This is the problem with the Zoom meetings.
Hello, Kathy McGraw from Northville. Can you hear me?
Because if we don't get all this on a record, we'll be crucified.
Can you hear me?
Who's the applicant?
Hello?
Hey, Chris? Chris?
6
Chris?
or 3 o'clock.
The next meeting. We all know what's happening. We'll have an extra 10 days to put the waiting.
Chris? Chris? This way. Yes.
Let's continue with town government, whatever.
While they're having a secret meeting?
I don't think there's any secret meeting going on.
Hello, Kathy
Anyway,
McGraw
I'm
from
Cindy Clifford,
Northville. Can you hear me?
CLIFFORD.
All right, wait a minute, there's
Okay.
people
She
talking
can't-
now.
Kathy, can you hear me?
Hello? I just
Kathy,
heard a voice.
it's not working here.
Okay, thank you.
I did. It's the.
For anybody at home that's watching the meeting right now, and for the people in the audience that have been great this evening with your patience, we're having audio difficulties with Zoom right now, and we're trying to work it out, and we just need
Can we,
a minute or two.
can we move on with other town business?
Oh, it's the speaker.
At some point. There must have been a power surge, and the preamp speakers is blown out.
Okay, so our speakers are blown out, so we do not have any audio for what's coming in through the Zoom.
Want to make a motion to extend it 2 weeks, next meeting or the next 6 o'clock meeting?
I think it should be the next 6 o'clock. I don't know, I'd rather ask Eileen.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yes.
Let him do it. Yeah, do it.
We're going to just ask
Extend
for
it, yeah.
double check.
Does it go to?
Extend it out. Having an illegal meeting.
You have to get these comments.
Right now, we're just at a standstill until we come back together.
This place needs a whole
Gotta give the sound guy a blanket party later.
maybe you could get a new microphone. Yes, and do it. That mic is.
I know, but we're in here.
Thanks, Chris.
Check the men's room, check the men's room, the audio.
continue now and see if there's anyone in the room that would like to come back up to the podium. What's that? I am learning a lot about technology, that's for sure.
I hate it. Taxes are going up, we need new speakers. It was a joke.
All right, Laura, if you could just be quickly, you've
Very
had your
quickly,
5 minutes.
talking about the comprehensive plan, and I know it's underway, or we'd like to think it's underway, but the vision embodied in the 2003 plan wasn't for a mono-use zoning development of multiple 50-foot tall warehouses in Calverton. Similar to the proliferation of solar farms, what's happening now is an overload of enormous warehouse and delivery services which compound the cumulative impacts within this single geographic area, which also happens to be an environmental justice area. Because we don't yet have any meaningful updated information from the stalled, failed attempts at our comprehensive plan update, it's unfortunate to have to accept reliance upon the the outdated 2003 plan, but the community has reached out and have expressed concerns about the ongoing loss of ag soils, mature vegetation, as well as the change in community character. The residents continue to seek an opportunity to express their desire to balance the industrial uses and other land use options and to incorporate other needs and expectations in an updated comprehensive plan. And to that end, it would have been wonderful to have had a moratorium when it was last proposed back in 2020. It would have given us time to really prepare for these kinds of things because they were already entering the town in pre-applications. So thank you very much for your...
Anyone else? Cindy?
Secret meetings.
Hi, I'm Cindy Clifford, C-L-I-F-F-O-R-D. And with Ms. Blas mentioning the comprehensive plan, I think for people who are paying any attention, like, that's a huge concern that we have this municipality that right now is sort of like winging a prayer-ing it. It doesn't seem that there's a cohesive view of how things are done and when things are being done, and the concern of 7 potential warehouse sites, which absolutely will irreparably alter Calverton. And I believe, I forget your name, Ms. Guilfoyle, had mentioned the fact that even with the Dark Skies Initiative, people in Calverton won't be seeing stars anymore. I mean, I live a few blocks from the hospital, and with the Dark Skies Initiative, I don't see stars. I know they're there, sometimes I see the moon, but I think it's tragic that we have this really spectacular landscape, and that it's gonna come down to, I don't know what, like, I'm not sure what the benefit is for the citizens of the town. I'm sure there's some kind of a finance thing that's gonna somehow enhance somebody's pockets, but I don't see what the benefit is for the town, for the people who live here, and I'm not sure what the wisdom is in having these undeveloped spaces turned into warehouses when we've got 600 acres at the EPCAL site that are really specifically fine-tuned to be a perfect fit for this. Thank you.
Thank you. We're gonna keep this quick. You've been
Hi,
up here
yes, Kathy
twice.
Turchin. Yeah, well, as I'm listening to everybody, and I realize that I don't believe I heard this, and my question is, or my request is, on the FEIS from a different project, I believe it's HK Ventures, there is a request to have a cumulative review, an impact, a cumulative impact review on all projects. I'd like that to be included in the words inside this document tonight. Am I speaking clear? Does that make sense? Okay, great, thanks so much.
Christopher Kent on behalf of the applicant. I wasn't really planning on speaking tonight, but I want to just give you a couple of things. First of all, we're very happy to see this many people coming out to speak about the project because the developers, North Point, are very concerned and interested in public participation in the development of this project. And they can laugh if they want, but I'm being sincere. I've spent about 42 years living in the town of Riverhead and working in the town of Riverhead, and everything I've ever done was to do things that are right for the town of Riverhead. So let's be real about this. I wanted to, Eileen, the planning board counsel, had requested if I would agree to an extension of time so that you could put this hearing over to a time when everyone could participate, both in person or through electronically. So I would agree to allow this to be carried over to September 15th and to extend the time for the planning board to consider final scope to October 6th. So hopefully that can provide everybody the opportunity to be heard, and we can have we can have a project that's the result of a lot of conversation and dialogue between the residents and the proposed developer, and the developer of the proposed project. Okay, so hopefully that will resolve this issue you're having tonight, and we can resolve some of the issues and concerns that people have about the project and make the project something worthwhile for the town.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Kent.
Make a motion.
Just to let everybody know who is here this evening and is watching via Channel 22 or via Zoom, the September 15th meeting is a 3 o'clock afternoon meeting.
I make a motion that we keep the Riverhead Logistics Center scoping hearing open until September 15th at 3 o'clock, and we will extend the written portion after that at least 10 days. So moved.
Second.
Vote, please.
Aye.
O'Day, Nenaro.
Aye.
Dennisesky.
Aye.
Woski. Yes. Okay. Let's move on to somebody that's been waiting very patiently. We have a public hearing for Pipchinsky lot line modification.
Good evening, everyone, members of the board. Hopefully this will be a little less nerve-wracking than running the Zoom meeting. For the record, Heather Chojnowski, site plan reviewer, and this is a public hearing for a lot line modification application seeking to modify the existing property line between two parcels located at 2011 River Road and 2023 River Road, more particularly described as Suffolk County Tax Map numbers 600-118-4-5.10 and 600-118-4-5.7. The application proposes to convey approximately 3.861 acres of unimproved land from 2011 River Road to 2023 River Road. 2011 River Road has an existing lot area of 13.812 acres, and 2023 River Road has an existing lot area of 1.151 acres. As a result of the proposed lot line modification, 2011 River Road will have an area of 9.9513 acres, and 2023 River Road will have a total area of 5.0125 acres. Both parcels are located within the Riverfront Corridor Zoning Use District, and they will comply with required minimum lot size respective to the zoning after the lot line modification, so no variances are required. And this application was classified as a Type 2 action pursuant to SECRA by resolution number 2022-076 dated August 4th, 2022. And I do have the applicant, who's also the owner of 2023 River Road, present tonight if the board or any members of the public have questions. So I will turn it over to them.
They're here to answer any questions if you.
I do not have any questions, but if people come up.
My name is Michael Warner, 1963 River Road. I have a concern, and I'd like to have my nephew...
Can you speak up,
explain-
Mike?
Sorry?
A little louder.
Okay, my nephew is going to explain what I'm trying to explain.
My name is Jason Yeager, Y-E-A-G-E-R. I grew up in Riverhead with my uncle, and the larger property is owned by my grandparents. I'm also related to the owner of the smaller property. And just to clear it up, so the larger property and the smaller property share a boundary. The proposed adjustment to the boundary to make the smaller lot a little bit bigger is what we're talking about. And as a high-level concept, no problem with that. The concern that we have, which we just want to bring forward, is that there's an existing access to the larger property in the portion that is being proposed to be overtaken by the smaller property. And our concern is just that the access be maintained. And if it's taken from, if the access is no longer possible from the parcel, part of the parcel that's being taken away, then we would just like it to be replaced in kind to still be able to access the site. Now, the concern revolves around the site, which has several complexities. One being that it's directly adjacent to a wetlands. The Pine Barrens also has authority over it. The shape of the site as it approaches the road is unique, and also there is an existing intersection which the location for a proposed roadway could connect to, which would influence how it can connect. It's, like I said, we don't have a problem with the transfer of the property. We just want to make sure that access remains. And we would ask that it contingent to the parcel, part of the property being transferred over and the lot line being adjusted, is that an approved other means of access to the back property is provided.
If I'm understanding correctly, is there a right-of-way that is part of the parcel that you're discussing?
By taking that land, it will landlock the piece.
There is an existing vehicular access that leads to that on the existing property, which is part of the property that's being proposed to be transferred over to the other property.
The problem with making a road or something like that is the development rights were sold to the Pine Barrens Corps Aquifer Recharge. So they have an easement on the property as a whole, and it would have to be okayed with them for doing any kind of improvement.
That's the problem.
Do you own the property?
I own 1963.
You own the larger lot?
It's the property
Next door.
He owns the property that's right in front of, on the street side of the larger lot. The larger lot is owned by parents.
My parents.
He's a trustee.
So if I'm not mistaken, the DEC came around in the 1980s and flagged the wetlands. And the wetlands are controlled by the New York State DEC for freshwater wetlands preservation. And then, after the fact, the Pine Barrens came along and sold the development rights for the Pine Barrens Corps Aquifer Recharge. So, between the DEC wetlands and the Pine Barrens, there's a lot of different stipulations that have to be followed. They come and inspect the property.
Does the applicant wish to come up and maybe clarify what's going on here? Thank you.
Hi,
Good evening, members of the board. My name is Joseph Pignataro. It's Pignataro. I'm a licensed architect with New York State, working in concert with Young & Young for Ms. Pipchinsky's property. In relation to the wetlands issue, there is access to the larger piece of property right off of River Road, approximately 99.9 feet, which I feel would allow for more than adequate access to the space. It does not infringe on the wetlands area, except for maybe a very slight portion, as you can see, on the northeast portion of the property line. I don't see any problem with accessing this site from River Road in any respect.
They had mentioned that part of the parcel is landlocked.
The parcel would not be landlocked. The parcel would not be landlocked because of the 99.9 feet of frontage they have along River Road. Ms. Pipchinsky's already secured DEC approval, Central Pine Barrens approval, SECR approval. She's currently submitting some additional documentation to DOH. But as far as access to this piece of property, as you can see from the survey prepared by Young & Young, there's almost 100 feet of frontage that should more than allow for access to this property.
Heather, could we see that plan up here one more time, please?
And I've highlighted here if you'd like to see this map as well.
So the 99 is over here.
Put the map over the microphone.
Sorry.
I've been out to look at this place. Yeah, I mean,
So this is the parcel as a whole. This is the parcel that the people who are speaking on, they're concerned about losing this access.
You're concerned about this.
But they do have frontage here. She owns both lots.
So the frontage is here?
There are 2 points of frontage for that larger parcel.
Okay, so this is the cutout, so there's access here.
There's a dirt road.
Okay, access here.
No, I believe they own the front one, 1963.
Big lot.
No, this one in the middle, it has a house on it.
This has a house on it.
have you gentlemen looked at this map? Why don't you show it to them?
It's online.
This way maybe it'll just clear it right up.
Just leave it for another minute, please.
When the DEC flagged the wetlands in the 80s, they also protect 100 feet from the wetlands. Number two, the Pine Barrens Core Aquifer Recharge Program stipulates they have an easement on the property that they decide whether you can or cannot do improvements to it. So this access is 99 feet, which is less than 100 feet that they're talking about.
So if I may add to that, the 100-foot buffer is 100 feet from the wetlands proper. The 100-foot buffer is for building. DEC is very amenable to access for flat work in regard to providing pervious pavement, gravel, letting it remain undeveloped. As far as access to the site, it can remain as a dirt road, but DEC has in the past allowed certain types of flat work to be allowed within that 100-foot buffer, like I stated, pervious types of pavement or concrete. The 100-foot buffer is not in regard to access, it's in regard to building.
Am I missing something? Why would the, whatever transfer she does here, the lot line modification, why would that alter the right-of-way that's on the property?
Well, right now it wouldn't.
Can you just state
It
your
wouldn't
name?
in general. Oh, Stacy Griffin, Pipchinsky, STACY,
Griffing, G-R-I-F as in Frank, F as in Frank, I-N-G. Married name, P as in pig, I, P as in pig. You got it? Okay, it's a long one, so it always takes time. So right now, a lot of acreage. It is 13 acres, give or take. How the land is being served right now is technically two portions. The one right now, the T-shaped property, if you're looking at the map, the one closest to my home, you access the property. Right now, it's being just used for landscaping purposes. It's kind of separate. There's vegetation in the area of where I'm trying to create the divide in the properties, kind of a protective vegetation, little clearing opening between the two. So the people who access the landscaping come up between my property and my adjacent neighbor. And they come up in between and they access that property. On the other side of the property, right now, that area of the farm is being accessed through a dirt road, through Michael, who was just speaking, his residence in that area. So right now, there isn't a drive, so they just use that as it's my grandparents, that is their son. They go through that to get to the farm. That's how they access it now. So if he no longer wishes to do that, they would have to create a path on their property to access it. A driveway typically can be 8 to 12 feet. Right now, if you look at the property line between the building on the farm, 13 acres, stated 1.5 story, between that and the property line is about 25 feet. So realistically speaking, you could put two-way traffic between there. They have plenty of room to do that. They have availability to access that property without infringing on his. We are not proposing any development on the portion. On the portion we are seeking to apportion. There's no development being done on the other side of the property that they are remaining and keeping there. The only thing that would have to be done, which could be a drive, which could even be a dirt drive, which is present right now on how they access the property. There's no development being done on either site, and the 100-foot stance off of wetlands is 100 feet, and that's development purposes only.
Is there a legal easement to the back lot over that property? A deeded easement, or is it just by use? They've always been driving. Yeah, a deeded easement. There is? No, a deeded easement to,
Can't have the conversation in the back.
yeah, you gotta step up.
Yeah, you have to
from
come
the
up to the podium, please.
Oh, okay. So that's an issue.
Okay, I think,
So as far as I'm concerned, this is between my grandparents and I, my property and theirs. We are both going to have access to it. We've discussed this. Not only that, but legally speaking, like I said, between the property line on Michael's property and on the farm, there remains 26 feet, which would be the best place to incorporate this drive aisle to access their farm without relying on their land.
very good, thank you.
Hi, Deborah Warner Anderson, W-A-R-N-E-R-A-N-D-E-R-S-O-N. Involved with the property. We don't have any problem with Stacy purchasing the land, using the land. I think the question is more for the town board because yes, it looks good on paper that there is that amount of land to put access. Our question is that truly available? We know with the DEC, with the Pine Barrens, with all these different layers, that there are many problems. So is the town board aware? Is this something that really can happen? We don't want to have somebody come back in a year or two and say, oh no, yes, it looked good on paper, but this agency is saying, no, it can't happen.
But technically, right now, you don't have any legal access anyway to that lot, right?
Correct.
So that's not an issue really for this planning board, but we'll take it under
Okay,
advisement.
that's all we ask. Thank you.
Sure.
Again, as I previously stated, if the question is access, there is no issue with access because of the 99.9 feet of frontage provided on the northeast corner of the larger lot. As I previously stated, the applicant has gotten DEC approval. has gotten Central Pine Barrens approval, seeker approval, and is currently undergoing DOH approval. And Young and
Excuse me,
Young,
that's just for the subdivision?
for the lot modification, yes. And Young has been working with me in concert with all of these agencies to ensure that the property would remain accessible and not be landlocked because of that 100-foot section off of River Road.
Thank you. Okay, do we have anyone else?
I'm just going to interject this just for the record that the planning board's consulting engineer had no problem with this. He's pretty thorough.
Very
This was the first topic that we discussed, my father and I, and my husband, when we sat down with Howard Young and Thomas Wolpert at Young and Young. They've always been the civil engineers on this property. They know this land through and through, and they said there's absolutely no problem with access on this property. It's the least of our concerns.
Make a motion to close the public hearing of the Pipshinsky lot line modification, so moved.
Second?
Vote, please. O'Day?
Yes. You agree with it?
No, just closing the meeting, agreeing or disagreeing.
Yes.
Nenaro?
Aye.
Dennisesky?
Aye.
Woski, yes. Okay, we do not have any discussion items tonight. Let's move on to public comments on the resolutions. Do we have anyone?
Resolution schedule a public hearing for subdivision application entitled Frederica
Wait.
Miles.
Dick, what's up? Public comment.
Oh,
You jumped the gun.
Nobody?
It says resolution.
Nobody has any public comments, correct? Okay.
All right.
Let's move on to resolutions. Go for
You're
it,
up.
Dick.
You're up, buddy.
I gotta start up again? Resolution to schedule a public hearing for minor subdivision application entitled Frederica Miles, which proposes a two-lot subdivision in which proposed lot 1 will be 13,181 square feet and will contain the existing improvements. And proposed lot 2 will contain 26,944 square feet and is presently vacant with a total project area of 41,125 square feet located at the intersection of Fanning Street and Mill Road.
Second the motion.
Vote, please. O'Day?
Yes.
Nenaro?
Aye.
Dennisesky?
Aye.
Woski, yes. Do we have any public comments on all matters?
Good evening again, Barbara Blast, Jamesport. I have a question about, a concern really about HK Ventures again. I know you had accepted the FEIS complete. I went back to look at the final scoping document, which you adopted in November 2020 after a public meeting just like this, where the board and the public participated in the contents of what was to be included in that document. And under the heading of cumulative impacts, on page 11, the applicant was to provide a discussion of cumulative impacts of current and proposed development, including solar farms within the Calverton area. That's in the draft, that's in the final scope on HK Ventures adopted in November of 2020 by your board. Ms. Woski, you were not here at the time. Mr. Carey was chair. Mr. Nenaro, you were not present that particular evening, but the resolution was adopted. And in the appendix of the EIS, the consultant reached out to the planning department to get that information so that they could process it and do their due diligence. And they reached out in December, again in January, and then they finally did get an answer from the planning department in January 26th. And the list of projects that was provided, there were 3 projects, but there was no information whatsoever on solar farms. That was that was in your final scope that was adopted. And there was no information about that, no information about NextEra, nothing about Riverhead Solar 2. They were all under review at that time. I don't understand how that happens. I don't understand, I mean, there is a process in seeker that allows you to change a scope. It's usually to add something, and you have to do it by resolution. Certainly if you're removing something from a final scope, you'd have to have justification. And you would also, would be responsible, it's your document, you adopted it by resolution. I'm wondering why that information was not forthcoming, and I believe that leaves a huge hole in the completion of that document, and I think the record is even more, the seeker record is even more flawed at this point on that particular application. To me, it's unconscionable that you, as a board, asked for information that you wanted to see evaluated in an EIS, and you didn't get it. Who made that decision not to give it to you? And the solar farms have been an issue. I mean, it's an issue. So, I don't know what you're going to do about it, but I'm asking that, that somebody needs to explain how that happens. And if you do proceed, I believe you're going to need to do some sort of adjustment via resolution if you choose not to incorporate any information as you originally decided on solar farms. There's nothing in that FEIS that speaks to that issue as was directed by the scope. Thanks very much.
All right, anybody else? Seeing that there is no one, we have not yet received the minutes from the August 18th meeting. So, other business?
None?
Correspondences? We have two that were put on record. And the next meeting date is Thursday, September 15th, 2022 at 3 p.m.
Motion to adjourn?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.